All right, so next up, we have some top 16 footage from Duels of Runeterra 10. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Justin, also known as Shit Just Works, and today we have Hyped versus Scrublord. And yes, Scrublord is the name in Duels of Runeterra 10 top 16. So it was an awesome tournament. We have all the other rounds, or not all of them, but all the other day 2 rounds will also be linked in the description below. So if you want to go check those out, we get a Fresh Lobster game in there. We get a Sujicon game in there. So lots of stuff to check out. And we're going to be releasing the other rounds of the top cut in the probably next day or so. So if you've come for competitive Legends of Runeterra action, you're in the right spot. Let's get into this gameplay. What is up, everybody? We are back. I'm back here with Boulevard for top 16 of Duels of Runeterra 10, and we are looking to do some Hyped and Scrublord action. It's even funny to actually say it on the stream. Hyped and Scrublord coming up here.
Yeah, just looking at the lists, Scrublord actually playing barrel control, something that we haven't seen too much of. Then we see Swain Sejuani, so actually very different from the Ashe Sejuani Noxus decks that we've seen so far. You know, we got things like the Crimson package coming out, a whole different slew of removal spells, so interested to see how that one works out. And then Fiora Vi, which is a ladder deck that I wasn't sure was ever going to make it into tournaments because PNZ and Demacia felt like highly valued sort of regional compositions, but instead, you know, with PNZ being downplayed a little bit, Demacia being played down immensely, you know, I do think it is a pretty cool adaptation to come out here.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because I think a lot of people wrote off Vi being included in Demacia because of the nerf. Like, I think a lot of people were under the assumption, okay, she's nerfed, she's at 4, so she's, you know, significantly worse than she was overall to just be splashed in something, because she was pretty much just being put in everything at that point. Yeah. And now we see it still apparently working, because this is just Bannerman with Vi Splash, which was a lot of what we were seeing pre-patch 1.2.
Yeah, I'm actually really curious to see how this barrel control plays out for Scrublord. I think it's pretty unlikely to get banned, so I think we will see it, because this is a deck that really gets a lot of its Shadow Isle value out of Grasp of the Undying and Withering Wail, which are cards that we've seen cut from every other list so far, and we don't see the Dreadway Ladross combo out of this deck from Scrublord.
And he's also, you mentioned the Swain Sejuani. All right, so we've seen a ton of Sejuani today. Ton of Sejuani. Yeah. She's very good. But I personally love the Swain Sejuani deck. I think it's Sero is you know, he's casted with me before as well. He is a proponent of this deck. He loves this deck. I think it's one of the better versions of the deck personally, because God, if it doesn't feel good to get a Tusk Raider off, and then later on in the game you have just a hella buffed Sejuani and a hella buffed Leviathan just saying nope every single turn to your opponent's field. You're all 0. You ain't doing nothing, and you can't kill us because we're so damn big.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty excited to see how this one works out for him. You know, it's not the kind of just a pretty unusual lineup from Scrublord, at least compared to what we've seen so far. So definitely going to be a refreshing take on it. And it looks like Hype is just kind of figuring out what he wants to ban from his opponent. Definitely a difficult decision. You don't see any Ionia in the lineup. So generally, like, Ionia and PNZ are the two things that have targets on their heads. But with Ionia completely gone and PNZ, you know, locked in with that Demacia, we definitely feel like players haven't been banning Demacia that often in recent memory, especially this week, where it has been cut from a lot of lineups, even arguably cut from the standard lineup, where we see just Frostbite, Fireheimer, and Sea Monsters kind of as like our standard lineup for things this weekend. So yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see what Hyped bans, as well as how this actually plays out for Scrublord, who's made it all the way to the top 16 with a little substandard.
Yeah, and it looks like, yeah, Hyped with the Heimer Vi, Deep. We actually saw Hyped a little bit earlier today. We casted him. The Lucian Quinn deck. I do love the Lucian Quinn deck. I think it's a pretty cool archetype. I think it's obviously very aggressive. It's very quick. But I do like it. I like to see a deck that actually is playing Senna and Lucian. It's actually, personally, when I first started, I thought Lucian and Senna was going to be a much better deck than it was way back in the day. Just because, same deal here, right? The same idea back then was throw a bunch of, like, lower costing units in, attack, pressure them with Senna and Lucian on the field, and you just have, like, you know, there's just so many options. You can have 2 double attack units, you can rally, all this stuff. And it just never really seemed to work. But now we have cards. I mean, you have Grizzled Ranger, which is obviously a huge addition to this deck. And I think what really has put it over the top, and which has put a lot of decks over the top lately, Fury of the North. This card is just insane bonkers as of late.
Yeah, I feel like the more often than not, as we did see Lucian and Senna kind of fall to the wayside, as you mentioned, it seemed to take on like this cheesier sort of role. I feel like a lot of people have experimented, especially with Kato the Arm, just throwing overwhelm units into the deck or just
Kato.
overwhelm.
Kato. Sorry, we still don't know. We still don't know for sure.
Yeah, or might in general just kind of coming out as like, this, if you could throw overwhelm onto a double strike unit, that feels fantastic. But yeah, if you're not curving like exactly Lucian into Senna, then the cards actually tend to feel a little bit weak on their own, especially with something like Jaw Hunters coming out and just a lot of challenge in the meta in general. The quick attack just isn't as impactful as it once was.
Yeah, Jaw Hunters is actually a perfect card to mention because that card is equally as, I think, impactful as Fury of the North has been. I mean, Jaw Hunters just trades so well into so many different units that have 4 health. It even, challenges the Badger Bear, which was such a problem before it was nerfed, and it's still seeing an okay amount of play. Obviously, it still comes off of the Grizzled Ranger as well, even if they're not playing the Loyal Badger Bear. But yeah, and I do agree, especially with Lucian. Like, he's only a 3 attack, and yeah, it's quick attack, but I don't know, man. Yeah, he does seem a little like, you play him on the board, you're like, yeah, I have a Lucian. Wait, this isn't really doing a whole lot, but it's cool, I guess.
Yeah, it just feels really bad when you get down that Lucian Senna and you're like, yeah, cool, my opponent has to make a decision. It's like, there's not a decision. I kill the Lucian, and then like I just throw a spell at your Senna, and what are we doing here? Like,
yeah, it feels bad, that's for sure. So I am curious to see it. Hopefully get a win here today. That's a deck that I actually would like to see win. Heimer Vi and Sea Monsters, I can honestly care less about. We talked about this earlier today. Not that we could care less, but we talked about it earlier. As a caster, you want to see some creativity. You don't want the same stuff.
Yeah, I do apologize profusely. Black Boss has made it into top 16. He, of course, was running that Hecarim Vlad deck, but neither side of the table is streaming for that one. We'll see if he can advance into the top 8 and play against the streamer. We will definitely try to climb that one for you guys. But first, it's just not happening in the top 16. But he made it this far, so hopefully he can advance just a little bit further. We can actually get to see some more action out of that deck.
Yeah, emergency. If anybody knows Black Boss or can contact Black Boss and get a hold of him, have him stream. And if you do, hit up the chat, let us know so we can hop on over to his, because I will honestly drop anything I'm doing right now to go watch a Vladimir deck in the top 16. Just saying. So
yeah, that would be absolutely phenomenal. And I'm actually, the brackets are being a little finicky for me. I am curious if there are any Hecarim decks that did make it into the top 16. We did see a couple of players that were, advancing pretty far into the tournament with it. And I'm seeing some players that I haven't seen before in the top 16, mostly just because, we're limited on who's streaming. So I haven't seen a lot of the lineups here. I'm curious to see how many Hecarim are sneaking around in there.
Yeah, I'm actually looking now to see if I can find anybody that we casted yesterday that might be playing it. But wait, Shika. We just casted Shika. Wasn't Shika playing Hecarim?
Yeah, Shikamaru was playing the Hecarim and Callista deck.
Yes.
It was the ephemeral deck with the shark chariots.
Yep, Heka was playing. Heka. Wow, I got too much stuff going on up in my brain compartments. All right, so we got Shikamaru was playing Heka, and then we also have that you had just mentioned as well, the Black Boss. So we actually have 2 top 16s representing Hecarim, which is pretty cool. And we are still waiting for Hyped. Just want everybody to know. Unfortunately, it's taken them a second or two to get into the game. It looks like Hyped is choosing to ban Demacia Piltover and Zon. And his opponent has banned Ionia, Piltover, and Zon. Nobody likes Piltover and Zon.
Yeah, funny enough, a recommendation that I'll give the new players when they're like, oh, what should I bring into a lineup? I only have experience with these 2 decks. I'm like, it's really simple. Put Heimer Vi in your lineup. They're like, I don't know how to play it. I'm like, you don't need to. You're never gonna get to play that deck.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's pretty accurate to say that, to be honest with you. Which is good too, because that means we will see the Lucian Quinn deck, which is an original. Well, I don't want to say original, but it's a different deck in its own right. And we will see the Swain Sejuani, and we will see this Misfortune Twisted Plank Gangplank mashup, which is also a deck that we've kind of seen before. Playing 2 Misfortune, I think, is a little bit different than we have seen in the past, but should still be an interesting matchup nonetheless.
I think the original barrel control list from Mogwai was 2/2/2 on Gangplank, Misfortune, and Twisted Fate, and
Okay.
I honestly wasn't a fan of it. I feel like Gangplank actually is one of the heavy hitters of the. Oh wow, hyped already getting into game.
Oh boy, that was quick. So let's head on over to the game.
He was AFK, and then I look back and he's
I know,
already
yeah.
back and getting in.
He did that real quick. Jesus. All right, we're getting into game 1 here of the top 16, Hyped versus Scrublord. Let me reset this matchup score real quick.
So I think in all the casting I've done so far, I haven't actually seen a Tusk Raider come down and then impact the game. Generally, like somebody dies the turn that Tusk Raider comes down, or like the turn after Tusk Raider comes down. I'm excited to see if this is going to be a little bit different, because sea monsters don't tend to win the game quickly. We are going to see this one go a little bit longer, and hopefully this Tusk Raider can have a big impact.
Yeah, very happy to see this Sejuani Swain deck. And I honestly, the Tusk Raider, always a fun card to play. Always feels good to double everything in your deck. If you thought you liked playing an Avarosian Hearthguard, you will love playing the Tusk Raider.
Yeah, I do love Hearthguard, so excited to see how this one works out. And yeah, Hyped, once again, if you guys are just joining us, Hyped is running a little bit of an atypical sea monster list, a little light on the removal here. No atrocities or any of the healing spells at a Shadow Isle, no vengeances, no ruinations. A little bit lower to the ground, even has that one of Hapless Aristocrat, Lore of the Depths. So some interesting adaptations, and that's one of the things that I do like on this opening weekend. There is still a lot of differentials within the sea monster lineup, but gonna have to see if this Lore of the Depths helps accelerate this matchup, helps him keep up with this Swain Sejuani in any capacity.
Yeah, and we questioned it early on that he had kind of a lack of removal in this deck, but it honestly has seemed to work for him here. I'm curious to see what he does early on. Obviously with the Swain Sejuani, you're going to start to see some more aggression come down on the next couple of turns, probably Ruthless Raider or Crimson Disciple. There's the Ruthless Raider. So he does have to be wary of that card, because Vile Feast is not going to do much against it. That Sapling Toss, I can't say enough. Coral Creatures, I mean, that Sapling Toss can kill the Ruthless Raider right now. And Coral Creatures, just every one-cost card it spits out is usually helpful.
Yeah, so my problem with Coral Creatures in a lot of decks is that it exists in the same region as Jettison. So in a lot of decks, Jettison just completely useless. I definitely do like it a little bit more in this Sea Monsters deck specifically, as it is the one deck that wants to play Jettison. So even if you get that, you're not feeling too bad about it.
Yeah, actually, geez, you get a Jettison with that on top of playing Jettison in your deck as a 3-of. That's, you're getting deep real fast.
Yeah, and there was someone that we saw earlier. I'm trying to remember who it was that I think it might have been Winding God, just doesn't play Jettison at all in his Sea Monster deck. So we'll have to see how that one works out for our returning 3-time champion.
Winding God, I gotta say, Winding God's deck, sorry to interrupt you there, but Winding God's deck is very, very weird. It's definitely the weirdest version of Sea Monster that we've seen today so far, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Winding God always kind of a pioneer of the meta, so I don't know that the lack of Jettison is necessarily going to catch on. I'd love to hear he usually does a pretty good job of like giving out at least a few thoughts on Twitter after the tournament, so I have to peep that later on, see if he's got some advice on why Jettison is just a terrible card in Sea Monsters, and we've all been doing it terribly wrong. Which, if he wins this tournament again, I'll believe him. I'll follow that man anyway. I'll believe anything he says.
Yeah, at this point, if he wins this tournament and he starts playing Poros in the next tournament, I'm all for Poros, and I think it's going to be the #1 deck type.
Yeah, just kind of a... So I never know how to call these. Like, I want to say it's a slow early game because none of the life totals have been touched, but we've seen both players consistently putting out units.
Yeah, and this seems kind of awkward on the side of Scrublord, right? Because he hasn't really had any early drops. He's finally now just getting the Wolf Rider down, which seems a little bit late. I mean, yeah, it's not incredibly late. He's still going to get some value off of it, but the Swain changes things. All right, so not having all those early drops, definitely not as bad now that he has the turn 6 Swain down.
Yeah, so Wolf Rider is actually a card that's come up a lot recently that I'm a big fan of. We generally see it in decks. They're not like hard ramp decks, but they do play a lot of 8 drops. We see it in the Freljord Bilgewater Pilfer deck, just ramping you into The Riptide Rex turns here, we're going to see it ramping you into Tusk Raiders and Leviathans, which is extremely impactful because I do feel like there are a lot of times playing a Swain deck where, you know, it's turn 7 and I'm like, I just love if I could get a Leviathan down here.
Yeah,
and
just
this Wolf Raider going to let that happen.
just a little bit quicker. If you just get it that one turn quicker, and it just synergizes so well with this deck too, right? I mean, this deck is aggressive at heart, so to have that overwhelm on there too, it does so many things. It does proc additional, proc. Cannot speak today. It does proc additional plunder effects, merging plunder and proc there, and again, it does damage directly with the overwhelm, which is also good for just the overall strategy of, killing your opponent and getting to really aggressive early on with maybe some Crimson Disciples and Ruthless Raiders.
I'm glad you clarified what Plock meant. I thought I was learning a new word.
No. That was proc and plunder miscombobulated there, just mashed together.
Oh, this is really good for hyped. Or sorry, not for this. Sorry, this is really bad for hyped. Let me re-clarify that one. Scrublord. This is insanely good for Scrublord. It does take the one fearsome blocker off the board, and there's no good target for this Devourer of the Depths.
Wow.
I don't know if there's going to be any removal on the side of Scrublord to be able to take it out, but I think it actually has to just come down as a tempo play to be able to block this Swain.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way you don't play this Devourer for the block right now, and I'm trying to think, is there anything that Scrublord could have to actually still get rid of it to potentially still get the Nexus Strike off? And I don't... no, Calling Strike is 3 attack. I don't think so. And unless he has some weird
either
thing with Noxie and Guillotine. Is there... I don't think so. Wait, what did he just... Wow.
Hyped fired off a salvage. If he does fire off the Glimpse Beyond here, he actually will go deep and will open up the Abyssal Eye as a block option, but instead going for the Jaw Hunters. Even the Dreadbloom Wanderer would have turned on the deep, but since, I guess because the one fearsome blocker is vulnerable, you weren't super worried about it. Now this is going to trade onto the Jaw Hunters.
Well, yeah, and he lucked out by getting that Jaw Hunters. That was a really good draw by the salvage there. This card, man, I can't talk like enough about Jaw Hunters. It's just so crucial in so many different situations.
Yeah, I'm excited to see if this is a card that we actually do see. Like, I feel like there are a couple of sea monsters that can branch out into different deck archetypes. Like, I feel like Abyssal Eye is just kind of a generically good card, and I feel the same way about Jaw Hunters. I'm curious if these are going to be able to just find their way into other decks across the meta. Just every sea monster that you get feels pretty valuable, even if you're not going deep with it. Maybe Terror of the Tides is a little overcosted and understated for what it does, but you can get a copy of Abyssal Eye or Devourer of the Depths. That can just help out a matchup a lot.
Yeah, even a Beast from Below. I mean, it's still a decent card. You know, it's a body that goes on the field. It's not the best thing in the world, but I am curious to see if that does happen. It would be cool to see that happen too, and hopefully branch away just from sea monsters in general, because we see so much of it right now.
Yeah, and I'm actually a little surprised that we didn't attack with the Swain and challenge the Abyssal Eye with that one, because Hyped was tapped out. No Jettison was going to be able to come out and put him deep. Instead, the Wolf Rider getting traded off for that one.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Maybe just more damage. I can't really think of why he would want to take that train of thought there and then that play, but we'll see on this coming turn. I mean, it's very possible that we see a Leviathan come down next, or even a Tusk Raider. I don't know how he would proc the Tusk Raider right now, so it's more likely a Leviathan, which would be insane right now. If he's able to keep Sejuani and Swain on the board, plus this Leviathan, I don't really know how Hyped gets back into this without some sort of immediate removal. All right, it is the Tusk Raider. Wow.
And it's actually just going to draw the Sejuani. Yeah, no proc coming out. He does have Death's Hand in the deck, but that's really the only thing that turns it on, as you mentioned. No Noxian Fervors coming out, as we typically see in Swain decks. And I think, to me, this almost seems like he has a second Tusk Raider.
Yeah, I think if you're going to play that as a tempo play right now, that makes sense to me that he does have a second one, because I don't really see why he's that concerned about getting a 9/9 out right now.
Yeah.
Maybe he just really wants the Sejuani in case one of them gets killed on board, but obviously I do think the Swain is the priority target here as opposed to the Sejuani.
Yeah, maybe just worried that the Sejuani would get killed by this
Devourer.
This Devourer of Deaths, and that not going to be the case, specifically because the Tusk Raider did come out. And so maybe you can explain this one to me, but Tusk Raider, I believe, is the one boat that searches a champion that doesn't have a keyword. We see Fearsome out of the Dread Nova. We see Overwhelm on the Leviathan. We see Scout on the one that searches Misfortune. But Tusk Raider doesn't get a keyword. So this 9/9, it just gets blocked by a hapless aristocrat.
Yeah, you are correct. I think it is different in that I think it's the only one that has a plunder effect as well.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why, because they kind of needed to tone it down a little bit because the plunder effect is so damn good, to be honest with you. So yeah, and we do see the Wolf Rider come down here. I just really don't know. I'm curious to see if he has another Tusk Raider in hand, because I really don't think that playing out a tempo Tusk Raider was that great of a play, but I guess we'll see as he plays out the rest of his hand here.
Yeah, especially mostly because, like, all right, so I talked a little bit earlier about how I don't like this one of Hapless Aristocrat, and it seems really weird in the deck. And hyped also with the one of Radiant Strike in his Demacia deck that I don't fully understand. So I just put these random one cost cards, but I mean, this Hapless Aristocrat is going to be able to block this Tusk Raider twice.
I mean, you could argue Hapless Aristocrat in and of itself is a very high value 1-cost card. I mean, you're getting essentially 2 blocks in. So if you're getting a block on a high like target like Tusk Raider, a 9/9, and then another one on another large unit, I mean, that's definitely a lot of value for 1 mana. But yeah, it still seems kind of weird. Even if this thing blocks 2 huge units, it does still seem kind of awkward in his deck.
And I'm curious to see what Scrublord's going to be able to do with the rest of his mana. The Wolf Rider coming down does mean that he didn't get as many 8-drops as you would have liked. Leviathan could have been extremely impactful here, as Hype doesn't have any removal pretty much anywhere in his deck. And yeah, really not going to take that much damage here. If Fury of the North comes out on the Sejuani, it still doesn't survive this Shipwreck Order.
So Fury of the North was the exact same thing that I was going to say, but he is actually not playing any Fury of the North. He could have a Sejuani's Fury of the North in hand, but it is interesting because I do play a lot of this Sejuani and Swain, and I don't know. I mean, I feel like Fury of the North wouldn't be a bad addition in this deck, just as actually playing the card itself. Oh, wait.
Well, we do know he has one.
Oh, that's right. He returned. All right, never mind. Woo! Wow. I right when he hovered over that, I was like, wait a second. There's a champion up there, isn't there?
Yeah, Tusk Raider does still pull Sejuani whether you plundered or not.
So, okay. So, actually, with that being said, God, my mind today, man. This is what happens when you cast too much, guys. This is what happens, folks, all right? Oh, did he just... Wait.
That's a second Sejuani's Fury of the North, so I guess he's playing both of them. Gonna push through 8 damage with this Overwhelm.
Wait, I'm confused, though. So why did he play that one and not the one that's revealed? Did he just make a mistake?
I think he just forgot. Sometimes it's hard to remember which one is actually revealed to your opponent because it doesn't indicate it to you in any way.
Yeah. Well, Riot, if you're watching.
This feels like a lot was committed here.
Arc Xeno, thanks, man. appreciate the forgiveness on not seeing the obvious card that is turned face up in the opponent's hand. Misplay. See, we're trying to point out other people's misplays, and here I am. Yeah, wow. So I am still curious as to why he just attacked right into that, knowing that he doesn't really have a way to do anything about it. Maybe he's just okay with trading that unit because he knows he can kind of repopulate the board a little bit, but...
Yeah, it feels like a really low value attack on the side of Scrublord. Maybe just living up to his name a little bit, and unless he can see a Leviathan come down soon.
Those are harsh words, man. Those are harsh words. You just snuck that in there like it wasn't a big deal. Like, oh my God. Jeez. Oh man. Hey man, when you have a name like Scrublord, I guess you're kind of asking for it, right? It's gonna happen one of these days.
But man. Yeah, this Ember Maiden actually going to soften both itself and the Sejuani up enough for the Vile Feast in Hype's hand. And Hyped, the Maokai is a little impactful. Scrublord is so low on cards that it's unlikely that they're actually able to win the game if the Maokai does come out here. And it's going to get upgraded thanks to this, the Lifesteal unit you made. The Dread Bloom Wanderer, that's the one. That will actually upgrade it. But yeah, I think that might be GG. I don't think this Sejuani or this Tusk Raider are going to be able to push it out, and Ember Maiden is even just going to kill this Sejuani on the following turn. Hype just has to pass here. Going to get through 6 damage in a draw, and can push a little bit more damage onto either this Tusk Raider or this Ruthless Raider.
Ooh, and he just tossed a treasure trove. That's a nice little thing to put in your pocket going into the end of the game here.
Yeah, I think I definitely don't see a way for Scrublord to come back into this one, especially now that all the champions are out of the deck. There's no Swains coming out. And the Swain that we did see come out of Scrublord didn't get a lot of value. And honestly, looking at the deck, looks very, very difficult for Scrublord to actually upgrade the Swain. There's no Noxian Fervor coming out, which gets it halfway there. It's just Death Hand as well. Death Hand and Transfusion are the only spells that deal damage, and that's 3 and 1. Then it's up to Leviathan, and I guess Ember Maiden does have a good chance of just auto upgrading the Swain with how many things it can hit, but definitely feels like it played against him a little bit here, not being able to get that upgrade out, and it did get traded onto exactly, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and that is one of the great things about Ember Maiden that I think is overlooked. And if your opponent has a wide board or you have a wide board, it pretty much insta levels Swain. And I think it's a very underrated good aspect of Ember Maiden that people forget about sometimes. And maybe that's what he's going for here. But I don't really know if leveling a Swain right now it's really gonna do it for him. I mean, he does have 8 mana, so he could be on a Leviathan coming up and on an attack turn on his following turn. So he could be waiting for an open attack from Hyped to then play a Leviathan and then go into his turn with full mana. That would definitely be dangerous, especially with another Sejuani in hand. So I'm kind of putting him on Sejuani Leviathan right now in hand.
Yeah, that would be ideal. And Hyped actually not even going to attack, is just going to pass it back. Deciding that Leviathan was the worst case scenario, and he's going to lose the Sejuani.
Yeah, and I want to say he might have put him on the same read there, to be honest with you. So I'm curious to see. I'm very curious if a Leviathan comes out from the right side of his hand right now. That means that's exactly what that case was, and we'll see what he has here. He just has had no options, so I don't really see how he's coming back in this game without a Leviathan. And we got 2 treasures in Hype's hand, so feels bad, man.
Yeah, this is definitely not a good spot. We see the second Tusk Raider. That's not okay. So he did have the second Tusk Raider, and we just never saw that one come down, doubling everything out. So it looks like he actually drew all of his Sejuanis and Tusk Raiders. One was shuffled back into the deck as a Fury of the North, but Maokai going to go ahead and toss that one to the wayside. And yeah, this Tusk Raider not having a keyword is going to be GG here. I believe the Hapless Aristocrat gone, but there's Maokai saplings coming out every turn.
Yeah, it's not looking good. Definitely not looking good from Scrublord here. And can I just... I want to point this out because it's been bugging me all day. And it bugged me yesterday because... everybody else is making this mistake. I don't know if it's just, because of the name, but that 3-drop, that's a 3/2 with lifesteal. I don't know why, but everybody calls it Dreadbloom Wanderer. And I'm almost positive, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, I'm almost positive it's Deadbloom Wanderer, but it's not just you. It's literally everybody that makes that mistake. I don't know how everybody makes the same mistake in calling it Dreadbloom Wanderer.
So I know you played Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know when you stopped, but there was a card called Tragodia that had about 25 lines of text. And for 2 months, my entire local scene played the card incorrectly because we all just thought it did one thing that it just didn't do. And I have no idea why all 30 of us read this card wrong the same way. For 2 months, we were watching an event and we're like, that's not what the card does. And we had to sit there with a magnifying glass to actually read the text on this card. And we're like, oh, it doesn't do that. Why did we all think it did that?
Oh, my God. And we see the Scrublord should have prepared for this, but, the zero-cost Dragon's Rage, likely for the win. I mean, it just seems like something that you have to always be playing around. Wow.
Yeah, the zero-cost banner.
this is... Oh, this feels bad. This is just insult to injury. That was
not a good top pick.
Is there some random... No. There's no, because he can just open attack. Isn't this just game here? Now he's doing 8 to face. Yeah.
I mean, it's not Hyped's turn, so it's not going to end here, but there's nothing in the deck of Scrublord that he can actually draw to win this one out. So I do believe we're in limbo, which is where the game is over but hasn't ended.
Well, while we're in limbo, I just looked up at chat. So, okay. All right. He's referring to... All right, so you were just talking about Scrublord's name. And I don't know if you recall, but earlier I was trying to figure out how to pronounce Dumb F Hawk or Dump Hawk's name. So he says, are you saying my name is asking for it then? Well, I don't know, man. Is it an acronym? Because I really want to know if DUMF is an acronym. I feel like when I first saw the name, DUMF was an acronym. If not, I don't know. I'm at a loss, man. I got to know what it stands for. I really do. I'm very curious. I think you're right. I think this game is about to close out, and it has. He clicks that fabled button. It's not say it like TTS. What does that mean? Do I not know what does that? Do I not know what TTS stands for? Is that?
I don't know what that stands for.
What does that stand for? It's not say it like. Oh, text to speech. Oh wait, text to speech.
Oh God.
Text to speech.
I can't do. I have to count on my fingers to figure out if get excited is going to deal 3 damage, and you want me to text to speech?
Jeez, that's rough. I didn't know your math skills were that bad. I didn't know. That's rough, man. Text to speech. Say it like it's text to speech. Dumb fuck. Oh! Wait, does that mean I'm dumb now for not knowing that? Does that mean... Shit, I just got wrecked. I just got trolled so hard.
I've seen this happen to Smashcasters all the time where, like, someone just makes one of those names and donates, and they're like, yeah, thank you to this guy. And it's like, oh, did I just say that on broadcast?
Yeah. He just said yes, so... Yeah, I tried to mumble the last half, so technically I didn't say it on during the stream. Okay.
He explained it to you like you were 5, and you still fell for it.
I can't. Dude, you said it perfectly. If we have to count to figure out how much damage Get Excited does, there's no way we're gonna not fall for that. This is the Arc Zeno says this is the quality content that I signed up for. Yes, we live to please, Arc. We live to please. Oh God.
So
all right.
These guys get into game number 2. There's no Omen Hawk coming out of Scrublord this time, but yeah, Crimson Disciple actually going to fare pretty well into this Fleet Feather tracker. We do see the Swain and Senna on the side of Hype though, so I have to say right from the get-go, there's not a lot of removal in Scrublord's deck. He can Death's Hand one of them, but he doesn't have a great follow-up for the Senna after the Lucian dies, that since there are no Noxian Fervors. So I think Hype actually just might be able to. This might be one of the matchups where you just get to take it over with Senna.
So I will say, if he does get Lucian Senna on the field, it's going to be difficult for Scrublord to really stay in the game. But if Scrublord can play this properly, because like I said, I've played a lot of this deck on ladder, the Swain Sejuani, he can actually out aggro this deck, believe it or not, because of the overwhelm. He'll lose advantage in field presence at a certain point, but he'll do enough damage to threaten Hyped before he is actually to threaten Scrublord. So it depends. Having Lucian Senna down as early as he has right here on turn 3 is, I don't know if he's going to be able to do that now, but we'll see. Like you said, he could have a Death's Hand, which would be huge.
Yeah, Death's Hand or Elixir of Iron get to kill this Senna. And the Omen Hawk actually probably one of the best cards he could throw out, because you do have to throw something under this Senna if you are going to kill the Lucian. With an Elixir of Iron specifically, and just need a block for that. But it looks like actually going to pull the Disciple. Hype's going to take the damage. Explaining, I think he's talking about the Elixir of Iron play and how he doesn't want to fall for that one. So instead, just going to push through 7 damage with these 2.
I do like that a lot, actually, by Hyped, and you're 100%. I think he needs to play around Elixir of Iron there. He does decide to kill the Lucian. The Senna levels up, which... I was going to say takes 1 damage, but obviously due to the quick/double attack, it does not. So she is now critically out of Death's Hand range, and she's a very scary unit right now, especially with everything else that Hyped has in his hand.
Yeah, and we're not going to be able to see a block from the Senna, so we are going to see the life total just shift more and more into Scrublord's favor. As you had mentioned, has the opportunity to just out-aggro this deck from Hyped. Who's had the perfect curve so far, but this is just kind of one of the things. I feel like I've seen this this Lucian into Senna come out from him a few times, and it doesn't always take over the game like you would want it to on paper. This is a surprising pass out of Scrublord. Seeing what Hyped wants to throw down. I feel like the open attack would have been fine, at least. If he does just pass the turn, I'll be a little upset.
Yeah, so I do think Hyped is in a very commanding position here. The Laurent Protege now being added. So if you guys have been following these tournaments for a while, Laurent Protege has been out of most Demacia decks for quite some time. He's recently made his way back in. I want to say he was basically out of the mix for a while because of Badger Bear. The Badger Bear nerf to 3 attack. I guess most people are valuing the Challenger over the additional attack at this point.
This is a little weird to me because I feel like if you had gone for the Crimson Disciple open attack, Hyped wouldn't have blocked because it opens up his Senna to the Death's Hand, and then you could have played the Wolf Rider after the fact instead, gonna get it down here without the Plunder ability going off.
Yeah, I think he's recognizing that might be the right play just because of how many units Hyped already has in the field. Like, you know, Scrublord is not going to come back right now with trying to, you know, challenge Hyped with more units. So he just wants to try to get down as much damage as possible. And that's kind of what I was talking about before. He kind of lost it a little bit earlier than he'd like to by not having like the early Omen Hawk and maybe the Elixir of Iron, because the way he's playing, it doesn't seem like he really has an Elixir of Iron right now. So he just has to go for damage at this point.
Yeah, and he does push through 2 additional damage because the setup from Hyped was relatively weak. If we'd even see the Grizzled Ranger come out, you know, I think he would have been fine trading that for the Wolf Rider. Would have just been a little bit extra damage. Now we're going to see these attacks lined up. He's looks like Hyped is fine trading this Senna for this Swain. Actually going to turn that... Oh, no. He's figuring it out.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think... It's like, yeah, I would definitely be okay with trading a Senna for Swain, too. Like, what are you talking about?
That's... Oh, God. This is the one thing I hate about, like, casting Runeterra over any other game. Is, like, because the players get to sit here and, like, rearrange the challenges and the attacks multiple times. It's like, well, yeah. I know he's attacking, and let me talk about this. Oh, he's already switched it around.
Never mind. Axe that plan. We're not going that route anymore. But, yeah, no, he obviously, I think, made the right decision here. And he can't not... If he actually considers not blocking it, that's 13 damage. So, yeah, I think you kind of have to. And the Swain is going to die. That sucks.
Hopefully he has another Swain. There aren't any more fearsome blockers on the side of Hyped, at least at the moment. We do see 1 in the hand as well. We see 2 in the hand, as well as the Fury of the North to help buff it up. But just a pass from Scrublord. I mean, there's only 8 damage rather coming out of Hyped at the moment, at least on board. So,
well, he's got he's 1 short of lethal by just passing here.
Yeah.
Do we just like do that and hope to top deck the Radiant Strike, or like I don't? Maybe that's why that 1 of Radiant Strike is in there. But yeah, I think you have. Oh. All right. There's still hope. There's still hope for Scrublord.
Yeah, Bannerman actually got reverse buffed. Now he just gives himself the +1/+1 instead of the board, so it's a new implemented thing by Riot. That's hand. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we're cleaning out the board a little bit. If Scrublord does have 8 drops in hand, then I'm going to have to call back to that turn where he did miss the opportunity to buff up the mana with the Wolf Rider. But yeah, it looks like his hand is actually just kind of weak, maybe on a couple of spells that aren't typically useful here, like Transfusion, maybe... Culling, yeah, there's no great Culling Strike target either, and I think Hype just has lethal here with the Double Fury of the North.
Yeah, is there anything that Scrublord could have? I mean, everything's out of range of Culling Strike if you Fury of the North's both units minus the Omen Hawk.
Yeah, I think you would have to buff the Omen Hawk just because there is Noxian Guillotine in the deck. You don't want that to come down on Fury of the North.
Yep.
Laurent Protege.
Good call. And yeah, I think that's what Hype's looking at right now is the deck list. Like he just wins.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he's recognizing what you're putting down here, which is to not buff the damage unit for Guillotine, and that's a guaranteed V right there for Hyped. Who's actually, God, you know, I'm terrible. Now that I'm doing this matchup score, I gotta like stay on top of this. He was 1-0. Guys, just act like that's been there the whole game. Nobody saw anything.
Yeah, that's going to be Hyped picking that one up 2-0 over the Swain Sejuani deck.
Wow. That's 2 quick wins. And just going to update the score here from 1-0 to 2-0. We got this. And yeah, and that's unfortunate. I really was kind of pulling for the Sejuani Swain deck to get a victory there. It doesn't seem like when it comes down to it, it doesn't seem to be that strong of a deck once we hit top cut here.
Yeah, that is always something to consider with open deck list tournaments, especially the lack of Noxian Fervor is a little surprising to me. It just does feel like a very good removal spell. I know that there's not a lot of great things that you want to throw under the bus, so I can understand not playing it. I think this is kind of an early version of the list potentially, but yeah, just the tempo test grader's not pulling it out this time around.
Yeah, it is a great. Honestly, I tend to agree with you because especially with how aggressive the overall deck list is, it can also just burn them out towards the end of the game to get that unexpected victory, especially if you're playing multiple copies. And like you said, it's got great utility in removing other stuff from the board too. And that's all she wrote. There's the game. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Again, I casted with Boulevard, my dude. His information will be in the description below, as well as the information for Hype's channel and any information on following Hyped if you guys are interested in Team Liquid's Hyped. And also big shout out to Team Liquid for sponsoring the tournament. So thank you very much, and obviously Kuma, the awesome TO for every Duels of Runeterra since its inception, back to Duels of Runeterra 1. Jesus, I think that was like 4 months ago or something now, maybe 5. Actually, no, at this point it's like 8 months ago. Holy wow. God, I'm old. All right, so anyways, as always, everybody stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you, and peace out.